Now, those of you of a certain age might remember a singer, a combination, a group called Hall & Oates. With us, they're in a big fight now over God knows what. But to explain it all is the patent professor, John Rizvi. Professor Rizvi has been with us before. We were talking about GPT a few months ago. Professor Rizvi, welcome back to Nightside.
Always a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
I got to be honest with you. You know, confession's good for the soul. I can't name one song from Hall & Oates. Can you?
Oh, gosh. Well, maybe I'm dating myself because I can.
Okay.
Gosh, so, I mean, perhaps Out of Touch. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to sing it,
right. Okay, but I will tell you this: when I read this article about Hall & Oates being in a dispute, I was thinking about Dick Hall and Johnny Oates. They were teammates with the Orioles in 1970. Different Hall & Oates. So let's get back to the musical Hall & Oates. What's this?
Yeah, so,
what is this fight all about? There's no fight between Dick Hall and Johnny Oates. Johnny Oates was an Oriole and then a manager for the Rangers, and Hall was a relief pitcher for like 15 years. So those names are in my mind. What's this Hall & Oates fighting over?
Yeah, well, I wish I could say there's no fight. There's no fighting between this Hall & Oates, but that's certainly not the case. I mean, in fact, the first inclinations, I mean, there have been many throughout the years, but just last year there's an interview where John Oates has said, talked about, when Hall talked about John Oates not being his business partner, but not his creative partner, and he made a huge deal about that, and that was like the first indication that there's some bad blood.
Yeah.
But now it's like, I mean, nobody is hiding it. In fact, there's Hall is seeking a restraining order, and not the kind for physical harm, not the kind that in like domestic disputes or anything like that. A legal restraining order to prevent John Oates from selling his ownership stake in their publishing catalog. So that's what's at stake. And you're right, there is a lot of secrecy behind it because they have a contract amongst each other which is confidential. And part of the reason for Daryl Hall to bring this lawsuit is that he believes John Oates is revealing parts of this confidential contract, and he wants a court to step in and preserve the status quo, not allow the sale to go through, and make sure that the confidential information remains confidential.
So these guys were together. They were around a long time. I mean, they're kind of a 70s group, if I'm not mistaken, right?
They are. They've been around forever. I mean, had rocky moments, just like a lot of groups do. And now, I think what's at stake is that the potential profit is skyrocketing in licensing opportunities for music. In fact, even older songs, the potential for licensing, not just for TV shows, but movies, even video games, streaming music.
We saw that with the Michael Jackson catalog and all and several others. If I'm not mistaken, Bob Dylan has just struck a deal to basically sell the rights to his songs for millions of dollars, right?
Yeah, 100%, and that's and that's why these confidential agreements between, especially in cases where there's two co-owners, they end up getting litigated, and a lot of times, many times they settle out of court. In this case, I mean, who knows? Maybe that's eventually there's going to be a settlement. In the meantime, the concern I think that Daryl Hall has is the confidential arrangements between them do not be made public, and that the sale doesn't go through.
Yeah, but the value is not in the confidential arrangement, whatever that arrangement was. The value is in the rights, the music rights, correct?
100%, right.
Okay, so it would seem to me that this would be a fairly simple matter. Come into court. If I'm the judge, let me see the contract. What does the contract say? Enforce the contract. And if there is a portion of the contract which is to remain confidential, I mean that one of them wrote the songs while they were bare naked, I mean, they don't have to put that out. Just get the music out. That's all.
Yeah, that's true. I think part of the concern is that the sale the sale should not take place. So that's what this temporary restraining order is. Like, say, hey, let's hold off. Don't let them sell it to a third party until the court gets to figure out between us who owns what and what percentage. And once we figure all that out, fine, then you can sell it to a third party. But we don't want to deal with somebody else.
Yeah, but Professor, this seems to me at its core a contractual dispute as opposed to a patent dispute, or am I missing something?
No, you're right. It would be copyright, not a patent, but at its heart, it's not even it's primarily a contractual dispute. Yeah. What did the parties agree to? What was the split of ownership? Mm-hmm. Because any two co-authors, they're allowed to divide up their shares however they want. Sure. And that's essentially what the dispute's going to boil down to. What was their arrangement with each other?
Let me just ask one final question. And as a lawyer, you're never supposed to ask questions you don't know the answers to. But as a talk show host, you can do that, and I do it all the time. So, were these like boyhood friends or guys that got together in high school and started to sing together? And is this like a long-time friendship that now has shattered? I mean, there's got to be a human element to this as well. Or did they happen to bump into each other when they were in their 30s and they sounded good together and they never were friends in the first place? Do you have any idea which of those two potential relationships we're talking about?
It's a lot closer to the original, and I don't know the exact dates, but supposedly they just bumped across one another in an elevator while they were each playing for different bands.
Oh, okay.
And that's how they initially first got together. But it's a lot more. Yes, it's a business arrangement, but this is a long partnership. I know Daryl Hall doesn't want to call it a part. He says it's not a creative partnership. Whatever it is,
yeah, right.
The public, we see them together, right?
Betcha.
Like, we don't see them as being separate, and we want them to stay together. It's almost like, in a sense of, almost it feels like a divorce in a way. And we feel, hey guys, just let's stay together for the kids, and that's us. Like,
I look at it a little differently. My feeling is that when Sonny and Cher split up, I mean, if they split up, Hall and Oates can split up too. It doesn't really impact my life. But hey, to people who are more musically inclined, there may be a lot of drama here. Professor Rizvi, always great to talk with you. Always great to talk with you. I enjoyed it a whole lot. And as Casey Stengel used to say, you can look them up. Dick Hall, Johnny Oates, Baltimore Orioles, 1970. Pitcher and catcher. They were battery mates, okay?
And just so no one's confused, they're not the ones fighting. So
no doubt. Well, yeah, I think they're both dead actually at this point. I believe Johnny Oates was the manager of the Rangers, and he passed away at a fairly young age. And the pitcher ended up living, I think, into his 90s. Believe it.
Yeah, gosh. Well, us lawyers we're blamed for the court system taking a long time. Daryl Hall is 77 years old. John Oates is 75. Let's hope for their sake that the case does not go on forever.
Because none of us will. Thanks so much, Professor.
Thank you.